The galaxy had never been so quiet and so loud at the same time. Quiet because everyone waited, breath held for one moment, the moment when the alien queen would choose her mate. Loud because the rumors and speculation about the event roared across hundreds of star systems. Traders paused in space stations, diplomats whispered in halls, and scientists debated on faraway planets. Every species wanted to see who the queen, Seraphina of the Zithira system, would choose. Seraphina's court was like no other place in the galaxy. The palace hovered above the largest city of SCIFI-Prime, floating effortlessly with anti-gravity energy, reflecting the pale blue light of the system's twin suns. Its towers stretched high, and the halls shimmered with colors that seemed impossible to human eyes. Inside, aliens from every corner of the galaxy mingled, each trying to appear calm, while secretly plotting how to make their champion stand out. The alien queen herself was the cause of all the whispers. She was taller than almost every species in attendance, her skin shimmering like liquid silver, her eyes deep pools that seemed to see through time. Many had tried to predict her choice before, but none had succeeded. She was proud, clever, and had an unyielding sense of her own standards. Any suitor needed not only strength and skill, but also wisdom and heart. Many had tried to impress her, many had failed. Amid the crowd of the galaxy's most powerful and proud beings, a single human walked quietly, almost unnoticed. Captain Marcus Hale adjusted the strap of his pack and took a slow breath. He had expected curiosity, maybe even disbelief, but he did not expect complete stares of shock. Humans were rare here. His species had barely begun exploring beyond the Sol system, yet somehow here he was, a representative of Earth. The other suitors whispered among themselves, some openly laughing. A human? What does Earth think it can do here? A tall four-armed alien with scales asked another. They cannot even lift these crystals, he said, gesturing to the floating platforms used for the upcoming trials. Marcus ignored them. He had been trained for diplomacy, for first contact, and for situations exactly like this one. But nothing could have fully prepared him for the sheer scale of this gathering, the elegance of the palace, or the quiet intensity of the queen. Finally, the chamber doors opened. The entire court went silent, all eyes turning toward the queen. Seraphina descended from her throne on a platform that floated slowly down, her presence commanding the room. Marcus could feel her gaze fall on him. It was like a weight, not heavy, but impossible to ignore. Her eyes did not hold mockery nor disbelief, they held curiosity. Welcome, suitors. Her voice resonated across the hall. I have seen many champions come to claim my favor. Today each of you will face trials that test more than your strength or skill. You will be judged by your courage, your wisdom, and your heart. Only then will the choice be made. Gasps spread through the crowd. These trials were not simple displays of strength or combat. They were tests designed to measure the very essence of a being. For Marcus, they were terrifying, but also an opportunity. He had faced dangers on Earth, in unknown territories, and even in space. Perhaps humanity's unique qualities could shine here. The queen waved her hand, and holographic panels floated around the chamber, showing the first trial. It was a maze of shifting energy fields and floating platforms over a pit that seemed endless. The trial would test navigation, quick thinking, and courage. Many contenders stepped forward confidently, relying on their species' natural abilities. Some had telekinesis, some could leap incredible distances, and some had sensory perception far beyond human limits. Marcus stepped forward last, taking careful steps, calculating every move. He watched how the other contenders moved, noting patterns in the energy fields. When the first platform began to sink unexpectedly, Marcus adjusted his path instinctively, finding a hidden corridor others had ignored. Slowly, carefully, he advanced, thinking not of speed, but of safety and precision. The crowd gasped when Marcus avoided a falling energy shard that would have destroyed lesser beings. An alien from a nearby system whispered to another, "How does a human do that?" But the trial was not over. The maze shifted unpredictably, and one of the contestants, a massive armored alien, lost balance and began to fall. Marcus hesitated only a moment, then leaped forward, catching the alien before disaster struck. The queen's eyes lingered on him, an unreadable expression crossing her face. Finally, Marcus reached the end of the maze, breathing heavily. He had completed it not with brute strength, but with careful thought, observation, and quick action. The audience murmured in surprise. A human had passed a test that many thought impossible for his species. Seraphina's voice filled the chamber again. "Well done, Captain Marcus. You have shown courage and intelligence. These qualities are noted." She looked around at the other suitors, whose faces showed disbelief and frustration. The next trials would test diplomacy, negotiation, and empathy. Marcus's human nature, his ability to adapt, to listen, and to understand would be his secret weapon. Many aliens believed humans relied on luck, but Marcus knew it was much more than that. Humans had creativity, determination, and a willingness to see things differently. After the trials were announced, Marcus was led to a small chamber to rest and prepare. Here he could observe the other suitors. They were magnificent in ways he had never seen. A being made entirely of light, a winged warrior from a gas giant, a tentacled strategist from a distant nebula. All were impressive, and yet all seemed constrained by tradition and expectation. Marcus realized that perhaps this was humanity's advantage. Humans were not bound by centuries of rigid rules. They could think outside the expected path. Word of Marcus's success spread quickly. Delegates began to murmur, some in admiration, some in disbelief. Did the Queen truly allow a human to participate? Asked a diplomat from the Haltharian Empire. Another replied, "He is lucky, nothing more." Luck does not win hearts or kingdoms, but the Queen herself seemed intrigued. She had watched Marcus closely during the trial, noting his decisions, his calmness under pressure, and his willingness to help others. Something about him made her pause, made her consider qualities that no other suitor had displayed. That evening, the palace buzzed with anticipation for the next day. Marcus walked through the floating gardens, the twin moons of Zythera casting silver light over alien flora. He marveled at the beauty but stayed focused. Tomorrow's trials would test diplomacy and empathy, and he knew that would be even harder. The other suitors would try to impress the Queen with grand gestures, clever inventions, and displays of strength. Marcus had only his humanity, and that he realized could be enough. As he gazed at the horizon, Marcus silently made a promise to himself. He would not simply survive these trials. He would show the galaxy that humans had worth beyond what any alien could imagine. Courage, ingenuity, and heart would be his guide. And perhaps, just perhaps, the Queen would see him for more than just a representative of a small, primitive planet. In the quiet of the night, the palace seemed to hum with expectation. Stars shimmered beyond the glass walls. Countless civilizations watching, waiting, whispering. Somewhere across the galaxy, an alien diplomat shook his head in disbelief. "A human? The Queen will never choose him," he muttered. And yet, somewhere deep in the palace, Seraphina's gaze lingered on Marcus. There was a spark of curiosity, a hint of something unexpected. The Queen, who had rejected countless suitors, had never seen a human before, but now she found herself wondering, could this fragile, odd species have the qualities that truly mattered? The galaxy did not know it yet, but the trials had only just begun, and for the first time a human had captured the attention of the most powerful being in known space. The sun rose over Zythera Prime, casting long, pale shadows across the floating palace. Captain Marcus Hale awoke early, the events of the first trial still fresh in his mind. His human instincts had guided him through the maze, but tomorrow would bring a different kind of challenge, one that would test not only his mind but also his ability to understand and influence others. The Queen had announced the next trials would measure intellect, strategy, and physical skill combined. Contenders would navigate a complex series of challenges designed to test problem-solving under pressure, reflexes in dangerous situations, and adaptability in unexpected circumstances. Humans were considered slow learners in alien eyes, so Marcus knew every step would count. As he walked to the chamber where the trials were set, Marcus noticed the other suitors already preparing. The hall was alive with energy, the air buzzing with anticipation. A multi-limbed strategist from the Andoria cluster was meditating, using mental energy to visualize the obstacles ahead. A glowing crystalline being from the Haltharian Empire radiated confidence, its body refracting light in dazzling patterns, while a winged warrior from the gas giant Inara flexed its muscles, preparing for feats of agility. Marcus adjusted his pack and took a deep breath. He reminded himself that humans had advantages the aliens might not understand: creativity, improvisation, and the ability to think differently. Strength alone would not win this trial. Ingenuity, courage, and adaptability would. The trial began with a signal from the Queen. Holographic walls rose, forming a maze of platforms suspended over a bottomless pit. This was not like the first trial. The platforms shifted, rotated, and disappeared without warning. Enemies, robotic drones programmed to challenge the contenders, patrolled the maze, testing reflexes and coordination. Many contenders charged ahead, confident in their natural abilities. Some flew, some leapt, some manipulated the holographic fields to create temporary bridges. Marcus waited, observing patterns, noticing how the drones responded to movement. Then he stepped forward, moving with careful precision. His small human frame allowed him to balance on narrow platforms that others avoided. As he advanced, a drone suddenly lunged toward a nearby contender, a tall alien with 4 muscular arms. Without hesitation, Marcus grabbed a control lever and redirected the drone just in time to avoid a collision. The crowd gasped. Many assumed humans would be unable to act quickly enough, but Marcus proved them wrong. Halfway through the maze, the challenge changed. The platforms began to disappear beneath the contenders' feet, requiring them to think several steps ahead. Marcus paused briefly, calculating angles, timing, and speed. Using a simple lever he found in the maze, he created a makeshift bridge over a disappearing platform, a solution no other suitor had considered. The Queen's gaze followed him closely. She noticed how Marcus did not rush blindly, did not attempt to overpower the obstacles, and did not ignore the needs of others. His careful, deliberate approach reflected a quality that many suitors lacked, a combination of intellect, patience, and awareness. Suddenly, a test of strength appeared. A massive barrier of energy descended, threatening to crush anyone trapped beneath it. The crystalline being tried to phase through it but became partially stuck, its radiance flickering. Marcus ran forward, using a hydraulic lever on the platform to lift the barrier just enough for the alien to escape. The crowd erupted into whispers. A human, small and seemingly fragile, had saved one of the strongest contenders. By the time Marcus reached the center of the maze, he was breathing heavily, his heart pounding. The other suitors arrived moments later, some grumbling, some glaring, all shocked at how he had navigated the challenges. Seraphina's silver eyes held a spark of interest. She had seen many champions succeed through sheer force or advanced abilities, but Marcus's victories came from quick thinking, empathy, and adaptability. The next stage of the trial involved a puzzle, a test of strategy. Contenders were given control of a fleet of holographic starships and tasked with defending a colony under attack from simulated raiders. Many aliens relied on brute power, sending their fleets directly against the attackers. Marcus observed, then used the fleet differently. He positioned ships to block escape routes, created diversions, and coordinated attacks so the raiders became trapped without a single ship being lost. Other suitors were astounded. "How does a human think like this?" whispered the winged warrior. "We would never see such a strategy." Marcus remained calm, adjusting tactics as the simulated raiders adapted. By the end of the exercise, the colony was safe, and his fleet had suffered no losses. The Queen spoke, her voice echoing across the chamber. "Captain Marcus, your solutions are unusual but effective. Strategy and foresight are qualities often overlooked. You demonstrate a mind both sharp and flexible." She paused, allowing her words to sink in. "These qualities will be important in choosing a mate who can lead alongside me, not merely follow." The other suitors' expressions darkened. Some began whispering among themselves, trying to undermine Marcus with sly comments and rumors. One tried to hack the holographic controls during the puzzle, but Marcus noticed the anomaly and countered it before any damage occurred. Even under pressure from deception, Marcus stayed calm and effective. Later, a final physical test awaited. Contenders had to climb a sheer vertical wall, a structure that tested strength, endurance, and nerve. Many relied on their species' natural abilities, arms longer than humans, suction pads, wings. Marcus used climbing equipment, but more importantly, he used his mind. He looked for weak points in the wall, found small crevices and handholds that others overlooked, and advanced steadily. Halfway up, the winged warrior attempted to intimidate him, swooping close and flaring its wings. Marcus did not flinch. Instead, he focused, finding a narrow ledge and moving past the obstacle. By the time he reached the top, he was exhausted, but he had completed the challenge. Other suitors arrived later, some faster, some slower, but none had combined intellect, empathy, and skill in the same way Marcus had. Serafina descended from her observation platform to address the contenders. Her presence was commanding, yet her attention seemed to linger on Marcus. Today you have all shown great skill and strength, but one among you demonstrated qualities beyond what was expected. Courage, wisdom, and compassion, these are what I value most. Marcus felt a mix of pride and nervousness. He had not only survived the trials, he had impressed the Queen herself. But he knew the challenges were far from over. The final trials would test diplomacy and empathy, qualities even harder for aliens to measure in a contest of this magnitude. As he walked back to his chamber, Marcus reflected on what had happened. He realized that humans had unique advantages. While other species relied on natural powers or centuries of tradition, humans could adapt quickly, think differently, and act with empathy. These were not weaknesses, they were strengths. The palace gardens were quiet in the late evening. Marcus paused to admire the alien flora, glowing softly under the twin moons. The scent was strange but pleasant, and he felt a moment of peace. In a few hours, the next trial would begin, and he would need all his wits and courage. But for now, he allowed himself a brief sense of accomplishment. Elsewhere in the palace, whispers spread like wildfire. "The human is not just lucky," said a crystalline being, its light pulsing nervously. "He is remarkable." Others argued, refusing to accept that a human could succeed where so many had failed. But Serafina's eyes told a different story. She had watched Marcus, studied him, and for the first time she felt curiosity and admiration for a human. That night Marcus slept little, his mind racing with anticipation for the next day. The trials had tested his skill and strength, but they had also revealed something more important. Humans could surprise the galaxy. And perhaps, just perhaps, they could win the favor of an alien queen who had never encountered one before. As the twin moons of SCIFI-Prime cast silver light across the floating palace, the galaxy waited with bated breath. Captain Marcus Hale, a human from a small planet called Earth, had captured attention, challenged expectations, and begun a journey that could change everything. The Queen's trials were far from over, but for the first time whispers of possibility stirred across the stars. Could a human truly be chosen by the most powerful being in known space? The palace of SCIFI-Prime was alive with whispers. Marcus Hale had passed the first trials of strength, mind, and courage, and now the other suitors could no longer ignore him. Aliens who had once laughed at the idea of a human competing now looked at him with disbelief and unease. The fact that he had saved a fellow contender during the maze and outwitted every challenge so far had unsettled many of them. In the high corridors of the palace, representatives from distant star systems gathered in secret. The tall, four-armed warrior from the Andoria cluster leaned toward a glowing crystal being. "This human has no right to be here," he hissed. "We must ensure he does not reach the Queen. He is an anomaly, nothing more." The crystalline being pulsed with light, dimming as it nodded. "Agreed. The human relies on unpredictability. We can exploit that. Subtle sabotage may be required before the final trials." Meanwhile, Marcus prepared for the next test. The Queen had announced it would be a trial of diplomacy and leadership, a simulated conflict that required negotiation, strategy, and empathy. Contenders would act as mediators between warring alien colonies, trying to resolve disputes without violence. Humans were untested in such high-level diplomacy in the galaxy, but Marcus knew that Earth's history of negotiation and compromise had prepared him well. The trial began in a large chamber, designed to resemble a war-torn planet. Holographic colonies, each representing a different alien species, were on the brink of conflict. Debates erupted, accusations flew, and tensions soared. Many contenders acted aggressively, relying on force or intimidation. Marcus observed quietly, listening carefully to each side's grievances. He spoke calmly, addressing both colonies with patience and respect. "I understand your concerns," he said. "But fighting will only make both sides lose more. We can find a solution together." His words were simple yet sincere. The holographic delegates paused, unsure how to respond. They were used to powerful displays of strength, not reasoning spoken with humility and clarity. Marcus proposed compromises that respected each colony's needs. One colony required energy resources, the other needed trade routes. Marcus suggested a shared system where both could benefit, with monitoring stations to ensure fairness. Slowly, tensions eased. Holographic leaders began to cooperate, impressed by the humans' approach. Across the chamber, other suitors scowled. They had relied on intimidation, clever displays of technology, or telepathic influence, and none had succeeded as effectively as Marcus. One winged warrior tried to intimidate Marcus with a loud display of flight and strength, but Marcus simply remained calm, ignoring the show and continuing his negotiation. The Queen watched silently from above, her eyes fixed on the human. She had seen many contenders fail because they could not balance skill with compassion. Marcus did not just solve the conflict, he united opposing sides. His strategy and diplomacy were unconventional but effective, showing qualities the Queen valued deeply. After the trial, Marcus retreated to a small observation room, reviewing his actions and preparing for the next stage. He sensed tension outside. Rumors of sabotage and manipulation were growing. Some suitors whispered lies about him, claiming that he had cheated or that his solutions were lucky guesses. Marcus knew he could not rely on luck alone. He had to maintain integrity and keep proving his worth. Late that evening, a suitor approached him in the quiet corridors. The crystalline being from Haltheria glimmered dimly, its voice low. "Human, your methods are clever, but you do not belong here. I suggest you withdraw before the Queen sees your weakness." Marcus studied the alien calmly. "I do not belong here because I am human. Perhaps the Queen judges differently than you expect. I am not here to impress other suitors. I am here to show that humanity has value." The alien's light flickered, a sign of irritation. "You underestimate the power of influence. Do not think your success today guarantees anything tomorrow." With that, the being glided away, leaving Marcus to ponder the subtle dangers that lurked behind the palace's elegance. The next day brought the final part of the trials, a public test of courage and leadership under pressure. Contenders were placed in a simulated emergency, where a critical habitat was threatened by a collapsing structure and hostile elements. The challenge required quick thinking, bravery, and the ability to inspire cooperation. Marcus immediately assessed the situation. While others charged forward recklessly, he organized the holographic inhabitants, giving clear instructions, helping them escape, and stabilizing the structure using creative solutions. One suitor tried to take credit for his work, but Marcus calmly corrected the record, allowing everyone to succeed together. His leadership was not loud or aggressive. It was steady, reassuring, and effective. The crowd of observers, made up of alien ambassadors and dignitaries, murmured with amazement. Many had assumed a human could never match the capabilities of other species. Yet here he was, leading effectively, solving problems others could not, and inspiring respect even from those who had once doubted him. Seraphina's eyes narrowed thoughtfully. She saw the difference between Marcus and the other contenders. Others relied on power, appearances, or cunning. Marcus relied on understanding, intelligence, and empathy. His successes came not from superiority of species, but from a combination of heart and mind. After the trial, Marcus was escorted to a private chamber to rest. He reflected on the events of the day. He had overcome suspicion, deception, and intense challenges, but the political intrigues of the court reminded him that the trials were not only about skill, they were about perception and influence. Success alone was not enough. He had to maintain the trust and respect of both the Queen and the observers. In the palace gardens, he met a young alien aide, a quiet being who had been observing him closely. "Captain Marcus," the aide said softly, "many do not understand you, but the Queen sees something special. Do not let the whispers unsettle you." Marcus nodded. "Thank you. I will focus on what matters, helping others and proving humanity's worth." The aide smiled faintly and disappeared into the shimmering pathways of the garden. Marcus realized that allies could come from unexpected places. Even in a court full of intrigue, sincerity and courage could build bridges. As night fell, the palace glittered under the twin moons. Marcus sat quietly on a balcony overlooking the floating city. He thought about the other suitors and their attempts to undermine him. He understood that in the next trials, he would face even more subtle challenges: jealousy, manipulation, and political schemes designed to remove him from contention. But he also understood that the qualities that had brought him this far, intelligence, courage, empathy, were more powerful than any scheme. The Queen, in her private chamber, reviewed Marcus's performance. "He is different," she murmured to herself. "Not the strongest, not the fastest, yet he inspires loyalty, solves impossible problems, and remains steady under pressure. Perhaps the galaxy has underestimated humans for too long." Word of Marcus's performance spread quickly across the galaxy. Alien leaders debated in hushed tones. Ambassadors exchanged messages of disbelief, and common citizens speculated in markets and spaceports. The idea that a human might truly win the favor of the alien queen seemed impossible, but it could no longer be dismissed outright. Marcus slept fitfully, his mind alive with strategies for the upcoming trials. He knew he had impressed the queen, but he also knew the competition would not relent. The final trials would test not only intellect and courage but also heart, the ability to inspire trust, empathy, and loyalty. And that, he realized, was humanity's greatest advantage. The galaxy waited. Countless eyes followed his journey, many in disbelief, some with curiosity, and a few with fear. Marcus had proven that humans could rise to challenges other species believed were impossible. But the greatest test was yet to come. As the twin moons cast silver light over SCIFI-Prime, Marcus looked to the stars. He was far from home, among beings who had never truly seen humanity. Yet for the first time he felt a quiet confidence. The trials had shown what humans could do when courage, intelligence, and empathy were combined. The galaxy might doubt them, but Marcus knew the truth. Humans could achieve greatness, and he was determined to show it to the universe, and to the alien queen who had already begun to notice him in ways no one could predict. The whispers of the court continued into the night, but Marcus did not hear them. His focus was clear. He would face the next trials with the same determination, ingenuity, and heart that had brought him this far. And perhaps, just perhaps, he would do what no human had ever done before, win the favor of the most powerful being in known space. The morning sun rose over SCIFI-Prime, spilling pale light across the floating palace. Marcus Hale felt the weight of anticipation. Today's trial would be unlike any before. It was not a test of strength, nor of intellect, nor even strategy. Today the queen would test the hearts of her suitors, their compassion, empathy, and the ability to act with integrity when faced with real danger. The contenders were gathered in a large chamber. Holographic projections lit up the room, showing a conflict on a distant colony. Two neighboring planets, each with a thriving settlement, were on the brink of war. Their disagreement had escalated to violence over a rare resource, critical to both worlds' survival. The Queen's instructions were simple: resolve the conflict, protect lives, and restore order. But the complexity was immense. Many suitors stepped forward immediately, confident that they could handle the simulation. Some attempted to use threats, advanced technology, or displays of power to force compliance. Marcus, however, paused and observed. He listened carefully to the concerns of both sides, noting fears, needs, and misunderstandings. He understood that empathy would be more powerful than any weapon or display of skill. Fighting will only make you lose what you already have, Marcus said gently to the projected leaders. There is a way to share resources, to protect your people, and to build trust between your colonies. We can find it together, the other contenders whispered among themselves, surprised. Humans were not known for interstellar diplomacy, yet Marcus's calm presence seemed to influence the holographic leaders. Slowly they began to respond, revealing their true concerns: fear of loss, distrust of each other, and the urgent need to survive. Marcus worked methodically. He proposed a plan where the rare resource would be distributed equally, with monitoring stations and a council composed of representatives from both colonies. Trade routes would be opened, and technology shared to ensure fairness. Slowly, tension eased in the simulation and cooperation replaced hostility. A holographic crisis appeared mid-trial. A sudden energy storm threatened one of the colonies, making evacuation difficult. Many contenders froze, unsure how to respond quickly. Marcus acted immediately. He coordinated evacuation routes, organized rescue teams, and stabilized critical structures using the tools available. His calm, decisive action saved countless holographic lives and earned him the admiration of the Queen, who observed silently from above. Not everyone approved of Marcus's success. The crystalline being from Haltheria and the winged warrior from Inara muttered among themselves. They had relied on force and intimidation to gain favor, but Marcus's method, compassion combined with intelligence proved far more effective. For the first time, many in the court began to question the assumptions about humanity. After the trial, Marcus was escorted to a balcony overlooking the floating city. He breathed deeply, letting the cool air calm him. He had faced challenges that tested not only his skill but also his heart. The Queen's trials were designed to reveal true character, and he knew that integrity, empathy, and courage were his strongest tools. While he reflected, Seraphina appeared beside him. Her presence was quiet but commanding, her silver eyes fixed on him. "Captain Marcus," she said, her voice like soft music, "I have observed your actions. You demonstrate courage and intelligence, but more importantly, you show compassion. You do not merely act for yourself or to impress others. You act for the greater good." Marcus bowed slightly, humbled. "Thank you, Your Majesty. I am honored to serve in any way I can." Seraphina's gaze did not waver. Many suitors have come before, relying on power, heritage, or displays of superiority. You rely on your heart and your mind. That is unusual but not unwelcome. The court watched in silence. A human showing not only skill but deep empathy was something they had never seen. Whispers spread quickly. "He is different," said one alien ambassador. "Perhaps humans are not as simple as we believed." As the trial continued, Marcus encountered another challenge. A small delegation of young aliens had become stranded in a dangerous part of the simulation. Many contenders ignored them, focusing only on the larger conflict. Marcus, however, redirected his attention immediately. He ensured their safety first, creating a protective path for them while continuing to mediate the larger crisis. His actions showed that leadership was not only about solving problems, but about protecting those who could not protect themselves. By the end of the trial, the colonies were united, resources shared, and lives saved. Marcus had demonstrated something that no other suitor had. Humans were capable of leadership grounded in empathy and integrity. The Queen's expression was thoughtful, almost unreadable, but her silver eyes lingered on him longer than on any other contender. That evening, Marcus walked through the palace gardens. The alien flora glowed softly under the twin moons, and the air smelled faintly of minerals and sweet nectar. He thought about the trials and the reactions of the court. Many still doubted him, some plotted against him, but he had stayed true to his principles. That, he realized, was more important than any praise or recognition. A young alien aide approached him again. "Captain Marcus," the aide said quietly, "you have impressed not only the Queen but others who watch from afar. You have shown that courage, intelligence, and heart can surpass species or power. Many now speak of your deeds in whispers of respect." Marcus smiled faintly. "Thank you. I only did what I thought was right. I cannot change their minds, but I can act with honesty and compassion." The aide nodded. "That is exactly why the Queen notices you." Meanwhile, across the palace, whispers of unease spread among the other suitors. They had relied on tradition, strength, and intimidation, but Marcus's success challenged everything they believed. For the first time, many began to wonder if a human could truly win the favor of the Queen. Seraphina retired to her private chambers that night. She gazed out at the stars, thinking of Marcus. His actions were unorthodox yet effective. He was not the strongest, nor the fastest, nor the most advanced, yet he achieved results others could not. More importantly, he showed a heart capable of understanding, helping, and uniting others. She realized that choosing a mate was not only about power or legacy, it was about seeing true worth. And Marcus, a human, was showing her qualities she had rarely seen. Across the galaxy, observers continued to watch. Aliens speculated, debated, and whispered in disbelief. A human achieving this level of respect and skill seemed impossible, but Marcus had done it. His courage, intelligence, and compassion had set him apart from the other suitors. The day ended with a quiet ceremony. The Queen addressed all contenders. "Today I have observed your actions and decisions. Many have performed admirably, but one among you has shown qualities that surpass expectations. Courage, intelligence, compassion, and leadership, these are what matter to me most. Remember this, for the final stage of trials will determine who stands before me in the end." Marcus returned to his chamber, exhausted but determined. He had faced tests of mind, strength, and heart. He had helped others, solved impossible problems, and navigated political intrigue with integrity. Now only the final trial remained, and he knew it would combine every challenge he had faced so far. He looked out at the city below, lights sparkling across the floating platforms. The galaxy was watching. Many expected a different outcome. Few believed a human could reach this far. Yet Marcus had proven them wrong again and again, and for the first time he sensed something unexpected. The Queen herself was genuinely curious about him. Her attention, her observation, and her respect were no longer distant or formal. They were personal. Marcus could not yet know the depth of her thoughts, but he understood one thing. He had captured her interest, and that could change everything. As the twin moons reflected silver light across the palace, Marcus made a silent promise. He would face the final trial with courage, intelligence, and heart. He would continue to act with integrity, compassion, and determination. The galaxy could doubt him. Other suitors could plot against him, but he would show what humanity was truly capable of. The trials had tested everything he had, and yet he felt ready. Tomorrow would bring the greatest challenge of all, one that would determine not only the outcome of the Queen's selection, but also the future of human reputation across the galaxy. And Marcus, a human from a small, distant planet, was prepared to rise to it. The day of the final trial arrived. The entire galaxy seemed to hold its breath. Reports of Marcus Hale's extraordinary performance had spread like wildfire. Aliens across hundreds of star systems were watching the Grand Palace on SCIFI-Prime, curious, skeptical, and in some cases, openly astonished. A human, they whispered, could not possibly win the favor of the alien queen. But Marcus had reached the stage no one thought possible. The final trial was unlike any before. It would combine every test Marcus had faced: courage, intellect, empathy, leadership, and the ability to act under pressure. The contenders were told that a simulated crisis would be presented, and their goal was to save lives, resolve conflict, and inspire cooperation among the holographic colonies. But this time, the simulation was more realistic, more complex, and far more unpredictable. When the chamber doors opened, Marcus stepped forward, taking in the vast simulation. Cities hovered over cliffs, rivers of energy pulsed dangerously, and colonies argued fiercely over scarce resources. Drones and environmental hazards threatened the settlements at every turn. The other suitors immediately sprang into action, relying on brute force, advanced technology, or overwhelming presence. Marcus paused. He had learned through all the trials that rushing or relying solely on power could fail. Observation, understanding, and thoughtful action were his tools. The first challenge appeared quickly. A holographic flood threatened to destroy an entire settlement. Many contenders panicked, trying to use strength to stop the rising waters. Marcus acted calmly. He directed evacuation efforts, created protective barriers, and guided the citizens to safety. The other suitors struggled, often ignoring the inhabitants to focus on grand displays of power. Marcus, however, made sure everyone was safe before moving on. Next came the challenge of negotiation. Two colonies were on the brink of war over control of a critical resource. Marcus listened carefully to each side, understanding their needs, fears, and desires. He proposed a shared system, allowing both colonies to benefit while building trust through clear rules and oversight. Slowly, tension eased and cooperation replaced hostility. The Queen watched silently, her silver eyes following every decision, every action. Then came a test of courage. A massive structure representing the central hub of the colonies began to collapse under the pressure of simulated earthquakes and storms. Many contenders froze or tried to escape the danger zone. Marcus ran forward, using ingenuity to stabilize critical supports while guiding holographic citizens to safety. The chamber echoed with gasps of amazement. A human, small and fragile in alien eyes, was performing feats of leadership and courage no one expected. Meanwhile, the other suitors grew frustrated. The crystalline being from Haltheria muttered angrily to the winged warrior from Inara. "We have relied on strength and power. How can a human outperform us with mere cleverness and compassion?" The winged warrior flared its wings in irritation. "Perhaps this species is more capable than we imagined." Marcus, unaware of their whispering, focused on the task. Each challenge was approached methodically. He solved problems quickly, protected those who could not defend themselves, and inspired cooperation among all the holographic inhabitants. Unlike the other suitors, he did not seek glory for himself. His actions were guided by purpose, integrity, and empathy. Finally, the trial reached its climax. The simulation presented an unprecedented crisis. A massive storm threatened both colonies with unstable energy fields and collapsing structures. Many contenders faltered. Marcus, however, remained calm. He assessed the situation, devised a plan, and executed it with precision. He coordinated rescue efforts, created protective barriers, and guided the colonies to safety. Every action demonstrated courage, intelligence, and compassion in equal measure. When the storm subsided, the holographic colonies were saved, tensions resolved, and lives preserved. Marcus had completed the trial not by dominating or impressing, but by understanding, adapting, and leading with heart. The crowd of observers, composed of ambassadors, dignitaries, and citizens, erupted in whispers and astonished murmurs. A human had not only survived the trials, but had excelled in every aspect that mattered to the Queen. Seraphina descended from her observation platform, her presence commanding, yet serene. She approached Marcus, her silver eyes fixed on him. The hall fell silent. Every contender, every observer, and every alien watching from afar waited for her words. "Captain Marcus Hale," she began, her voice echoing across the chamber. "You have faced challenges that tested strength, intellect, courage, and heart. You have acted with integrity, compassion, and wisdom, often in ways that others could not comprehend. You have inspired trust and respect, not through force but through understanding and empathy." The Queen paused, letting the words sink in. Marcus stood tall, breathing steadily, aware of the eyes of the galaxy upon him. Many suitors have come before, relying on power, heritage, or deception. You have relied on your heart and your mind. That is the quality I value most. She smiled faintly, a rare expression that softened her usually inscrutable features. The murmurs of the crowd grew louder, whispers of disbelief and admiration mixing together. A human, thought to be insignificant in the vast galaxy, had earned the favor of the most powerful being in known space. Seraphina extended her hand toward Marcus. "I have made my choice," she declared. "It is not a decision based on tradition, expectation, or fear. It is based on seeing true worth where others cannot. Captain Marcus Hale, you will stand beside me as my mate." The hall went silent. Gasps echoed through the palace. Ambassadors exchanged incredulous looks. Some could not believe what they had heard, while others stared in awe. Marcus felt a mixture of disbelief and honor. He bowed slightly, humbled by the Queen's words. "Your Majesty," he said quietly, "I am honored beyond measure. I will serve with courage, respect, and loyalty." Seraphina's gaze softened further. "I believe you will, Marcus. Not because of your strength or skill, but because of who you are." Outside the palace, the galaxy reacted. News traveled instantly, carried by communication networks and broadcasts. Aliens who had doubted humanity began to reconsider. Humans, long underestimated, were capable of extraordinary qualities: courage, ingenuity, empathy, and leadership. Marcus had not only earned the respect of the Queen, but had also changed perceptions across the stars. The other suitors were stunned. Some bowed in respect, others left in silence, unable to comprehend how a human had surpassed them all. The Queen's choice was final, and it had shocked the galaxy, but there was no denying its merit. As Marcus and Seraphina walked through the palace gardens later that evening, the twin moons casting silver light on the alien flora, the Queen spoke softly. "I have seen countless suitors, and many have failed to impress me. You, however, have shown qualities that cannot be taught or forced. You are remarkable." Marcus smiled humbly. "I am only doing what I believe is right. I have learned much from this experience and from observing others. I hope to continue learning by your side." Seraphina nodded. "That is exactly why I chose you. Strength alone is not enough. Wisdom, empathy, and integrity matter. You have all of these qualities in ways I have rarely seen. You are human, and yet you are extraordinary." For Marcus, the moment was surreal. From a small planet called Earth, he had traveled across the stars, facing alien trials and skepticism. He had proven himself not through raw power, but through intelligence, courage, and heart. And now, he had been chosen by the most powerful being in the galaxy, not because he was the strongest, fastest, or most advanced, but because he had shown his true worth. The galaxy watched as humans and aliens alike began to rethink what they knew. Humans, long underestimated, were not merely survivors, they were capable of greatness. And Captain Marcus Hale, a human from a small, distant world, had become a symbol of hope, ingenuity, and honor. Serafina and Marcus stood together, overlooking the palace, the floating city, and the stars beyond. The galaxy had expected spectacle, strength, and power. Instead, they witnessed humanity's quiet but undeniable greatness. The trials were over, the Queen's choice made, and a new chapter began, not only for Marcus and Serafina, but for humanity itself. The galaxy would never look at humans the same way again. And in the quiet of the palace under the twin moons of Zithera-Prime, Marcus felt a simple truth: courage, intelligence, and heart could overcome even the greatest expectations. Humanity, underestimated and overlooked, had finally shown its true strength.